Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first meeting of 2026. This is the January meeting of the BAC, the Bicycle Advisory Committee. My name is Alan Gonzalez. I'm Transportation Planner with the Arlington County's DES. Sorry, I'm a little rusty with this. But yeah, I'm gonna hand it off to Cynthia Palmer, who's the chair of the BAC.
Hey, my name is Cynthia Palmer, and I just realized there was something we should have probably discussed while we were chatting just now, which is, does anybody have the photo ready to load? I'm looking at you, Dana. Do you happen to have the picture for our introductions?
Do you mean the detour?
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
have
Do
it
you
up.
have
Yeah,
that one? Oh,
yeah.
you have that one. Okay, all right. So, perfect. For our introductions, we will just go through the list of who's here and which the list that I'm trying to find, there we are. Um, and we can all look at this detour photo on the screen and say honestly, oh, do you have the photo of it? Um, and say what you would do when confronted with the detour signs. So, I'm actually looking for the photo that Dana took,
Okay.
not the map. Do we have that one?
Hey, Cynthia, I can do it temporarily,
Okay,
the hard way.
okay. Ah, okay. That's one way. That works. Can everyone see it? So maybe we could read what it
Is that in your
says.
Strava feed by chance?
No,
Why not?
because I'm remiss.
So this is the detour at Arlington Ridge Road and Mount Vernon Avenue Bridge in Arlington. And it asks people riding bicycles to dismount their bikes and walk their bikes along the sidewalk. Thank you so much, Dana. Um, and so the introduction today is tell us your name, who you are, and and what you would do when confronted with signs like that. And be honest. My honest answer, I'll start, is that I would stay on my bike. And if the traffic weren't too bad, I would plunge right in with the cars, and otherwise, I would ride my bicycle on the sidewalk. If there were pedestrians, I would go, carefully so as not to hurt anybody. But I certainly wouldn't dismount my bike. So that's me. Why don't we go through the list and see how y'all would react? The first up on my list is Andrew Martin.
Yeah, looking at that, the detour and the sign, I would just take the road. Oh, so Andrew Martin, Arlingtonites. Yeah, I would just take the road there from Lang until Mount Vernon, and then get back on the trail there since they've got the connector that goes right up to the corner. So yeah, no issues taking the road there.
Great. And Dana, what would you do?
Yeah, I took the sidewalk. I rode it. I was a little disappointed because the when they had proposed the MOT, the discussion, they'd never said anything, and they said, we're going to do a great MOT and all that stuff. They never said, oh no, by the way, we're going to put up these signs that say walk your bike.
Interesting. All right, and now David Ansell.
Yeah, David Ansell here. I couldn't see the signs very well on Dana's picture, but I think what I would probably do is ride the sidewalk, depending how wide it was. And if I saw pedestrians, I might dismount if it was too narrow, but I would ride the sidewalk.
All right. And Elliot.
Hey, I think if I was heading eastbound, I'd just ride on the road. If I was heading westbound, I'd probably just ride on the sidewalk.
Okay. And Elwin.
Hey everyone, this is Elvin Gonzalez. If it was in the daytime, I would ride on the road. If it was in the nighttime where there wasn't anybody around, I'd probably ride on the sidewalk.
Okay, good distinction. Eric Goodman.
Um, am I up here? I'm not even sure. Anyway, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Depending on how narrow it is, I might ride on the sidewalk, but certainly I would move cautiously, especially if there were any people walking. But if I didn't see any people walking, I would probably ride. Otherwise, I might dismount or just move around them carefully. But just understanding that you're sharing this with people in a narrower area that it isn't normally used as a bike trail, you want to be conscious of that. So that would be my thought. Thanks.
That's very reasonable. And Mike Hanna.
Yeah, pretty much what everybody else has said. I think I'd assess the situation. If I could see the sidewalk and it looked clear, I'd just bike down the sidewalk.
Yeah.
But if there were a lot of folks around, I don't know, I almost never dismount, so it's hard to imagine me doing it. But I could if I felt like it was necessary.
Great. And Leslie. Is Leslie there?
Yeah, it was muted. I would just ride in the street, taking a lane.
Yeah.
If possible. Okay.
All right, you're in good company. Randy.
Well, Randy Swart from Barcroft. It happens that I went through there a couple of days ago, going down to Mom's Organic Market to buy groceries on my trike with a trailer. And I saw the signs and I laughed and I rode on the sidewalk because there were no people on the sidewalk, but lots of cars whizzing by on Glebe Road. And that didn't make me feel safe riding in the road on my trike, even with flags and blinking lights and all that stuff. And I came back with about 100 pounds of groceries from Mom's and did the same thing. And went across the bridge to get to Mom's, of course. So that's what I would do.
Excellent. All right, thank you. Aaron.
Yeah, I always follow the rules of the road, and whatever the signs say, that's what I'm going to do every single time. Because you guys are recording this. If it wasn't being recorded, I'd give you the honest answer. I'd probably just ride through the grass, whatever gets me there.
Okay.
I'm a pretty aggressive rider. I respect that. Maybe there was a better choice to make, but given the narrowness of the sidewalk right by the street, the sign should say "walk your bike." But I think some people won't. So.
Yeah. All right, Steve.
Yeah, so like Randy, I actually did ride through there yesterday or the day before, going westbound. So it's a big difference between going eastbound and westbound, right? Because if you're going westbound and you want to ride in the road, you got to cross onto the westbound traffic lane, then you got to turn left. I mean, no one will ever do that, right? That's just like no way. Going eastbound, of course, if there's no traffic out there, it's pretty easy just to go out into the road for the one block and then get back on the trail. I was going westbound, so I just got on the sidewalk and rode along. There was a woman pushing a double wide stroller who was too wide for me to go around, so I just rode it 3 miles an hour, whatever walking speed was, until we reached Lang, and then I got back on the trail. So I mean, I can ride like a walker. Like I can go the same speed as people walking. So I don't really feel like there's a need for me to walk my bike.
Yeah, that all makes sense. And of course, there was a double stroller while you were there.
Yeah, but it's no big deal. I mean, it was what, 15 seconds. I mean, it's such a short block. So, sort of just
Yeah,
hanging back is not a big problem.
yeah, yeah. I do that a lot. All right. Who did we miss? Anyone? Are we good? I think we're good. So, let's dive in. We're almost on time. This is amazing. Elwin is up first, and he's going to unveil the BAC annual calendar.
Yeah, thanks, Cynthia. So, over the past 3 years that I've been here, I think I've been the liaison with the BAC for the last two at least. Been noticing a few things. I've been trying my best to keep a track record of like topics that we've discussed each year, getting a feel for like who to invite to meetings, things that have been priorities in previous years, and things that could be carried over to the present day and to the future. So yeah, just this idea came from me. Nobody else isn't from the top down or anything like that. But I figured this is like a good idea to maybe get us a little bit more organized. So not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but just getting ahead of things on an annual basis. So yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. I put together this draft calendar that I've been working with Cynthia and Dana on for the past few weeks. So this is basically just giving like a look ahead on all of our meetings for the year. Obviously today's January 12th. So the idea of this is to have all of these topics and perspective uh, invitees to the future meetings in advance to get ahead of the things. Helps us as a committee to like figure out things we want to discuss for the year, discuss priorities, discuss things we want to achieve, and then give outside folks, staff, outside agencies, nonprofits, etc. A little more advance notice to invite them months in advance rather than like a few weeks before. So yeah, this isn't necessarily like a big change, I don't think. But yeah, obviously this is still like a draft work in progress. So just because something's on here doesn't mean it's going to be, set in stone. Everything on here is interchangeable. There are a few things like, our annual legislative priorities sessions in August and September. These are probably the only things that are like, that we do every year. But yeah, the idea is that to have these things planned out in advance. And I was very much brainstorming some ideas, like, in previous years, it seems like we did more of a concerted effort to do like things like group rides or like doing like site visits to things. I know Steve mentioned before that he would like to see more in-person meetings as well. So this could be a good opportunity to shift things around a little bit. I did see Steve, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was noticing that you have just once the police department check-in, and that's not until October. So I don't know how long there will have been from, I don't remember the last time the police came, but it was farther back than October, I'm pretty certain. So it's going to be well over 12 months in between our opportunities to speak with the police if we follow
Okay.
this calendar. And we used to get them, quarterly? So
Okay.
anyway, I think that meeting with the police, was generally pretty helpful, and more than once a year, I think is better than once a year.
Okay. Yeah, this is exactly the kind of feedback I want to hear. This is still like very early days. And as you can see, there's still plenty of like time and other months that we shift things around. One thing you might have noticed is, April and July have been called out for taking a break from the meetings. I have noticed over the past few years that we do sometimes take like a month off during the summertime as folks are on vacation or whatnot. And there's sometimes things get moved around due to like APS spring break. That's why April is called out for that. But just to reiterate, this isn't like set in stone. Like we can always change things around. I want this to very much be the committee's calendar, not just mine, not just my um, not just me as a hobby doing this for fun. I very much want y'all to take ownership of this and move things around as you see fit. And this is my idea. This isn't like, nobody told me to do this. Let's see. Yeah, Cynthia, do you want to go next?
Sure, thank you. Thanks for putting this together. I hope that it will reduce the frequency with which we are ghosted in our invitations and hoped for engagement. The issue with Arlington County Police Department is one that we have been discussing. And we've been trying to bring them on for the last several months. As you probably know, I would suggest we initially move them higher on the list. They yeah, we'd like to speak with them, within the coming months rather than wait a full year from when we initially invited them. I Yeah, and I don't see if the fire department made it on this version, but let's put them on as well. And also budget meetings. I think that's a regular, like an annual thing that at least once or twice we talk about the budget and money saving ideas. And I mean, we try and help out County Manager Schwartz with our suggestions. So maybe we can figure out like which months to put the budget meetings on, but that is one of our many roles. And anytime that DES would like to come and join us, they are very most welcome. So we can put them down for every month or any month if they're willing. So yeah, I'll leave it for Dana.
Yeah, a couple things. We need to get VDOT on the list because VDOT has trails in Arlington, and Arlington doesn't seem to have a particularly good relationship with VDOT. So let's get VDOT on the list. Parks, probably quarterly. And then sometime in the spring, it would be great if Parks and DES could do a joint presentation on a paving forecast, this year and next year, and just always look out to 24 months. Every time we do it, every year, let's look out the next 2 years on a paving forecast, as opposed to these things. We're going to pave on Tuesday. Hope it doesn't inconvenience anybody. Thank you.
Yeah, I believe Jillian mentioned it before during a previous meeting. Did y'all meet with complete streets teams or like the repaving team in advance in previous years?
Well, the reality is we've met with virtually everybody in DES until you became the person in DES. And and maybe in several years, you'll have the the background and experience to be able to channel all of DES. You're in a terrible position now because you're still kind of the junior guy.
Hey, Eric, did you have your hand up?
I did. I did. I agree. Parks at least once, maybe a couple times a year would be good to have to speak with Parks and what's happening there. I think once a year you might want to connect with schools as well. Just kind of what's happening there in terms of safe routes and even any days that they plan to kind of work with I guess either bike or walk to work days or walk or bike to work days to know. I'm sorry, not to work, to school days. So that would also be another one. The other thing is that Bike Arlington, at least in its present form, I don't know that Mary is really. I'm not sure what her role is right now. I hear roles are changing, so um, but I understand that there will be somebody in that group that will be reporting to us or telling us about upcoming events and things of that sort. So that might need to be updated on the list. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me, Eric. Yeah, with the new reorganization that's happening, ACCS is now called Track, which is basically it's similar mission in terms of promoting TDM and reviewing site plans for more bike racks. Working with Capital Bike Share. But yeah, as part of the reorg, they're in the process of hiring more staff, so more internal staff to rely less on consultants. And right now, Mary is a consultant with Bike Arlington. So they'll be shifting to do more quarterly updates throughout the year. But regardless, they'll be giving us like written updates for each meeting that I could like read off and give updates to y'all for each meeting. Yeah. Hey, Elliot.
Hey, I know you just said that you did this yourself and put it together, so I just wanted to say thank you. Like, I think that this is like a really great step for us to help try and plan and think about like, what month we want to be talking to those people and like have those conversations for, which groups that we want to talk to. But I really appreciate having it in one place for us to react to. So really appreciate you putting it together.
Yeah. And I want to also extend a thank you to Cynthia and Dana for helping me put this together. This is definitely a labor of love over the past few weeks. Hey, Mike.
Hey, yeah, thanks a lot. Owen, this is great. I think it's a huge step forward for us. I think quite literally it helps us set our agenda, not just for the year, but helps us think about our agenda as an organization, because I do feel like we're still a little lost in terms of mission. And I think thinking about this and laying this out will be real helpful. I am struck by the list of organizations that our members have asked to come speak to us. It strikes me that since we're asking them to come talk to us, the implication is they're really not looking for our input and not asking for our input, because they're not the ones asking to come speak to us. And so it's a little concerning to me if we have all these groups come in and present and make them present information. And then what do we do with that once we get it if they're not looking for our input? And so once again, I think we need guidance from the county manager about how he sees the role, rather than sort of a vague, strategic level advice. Is he looking for specific, report from us on some regular basis as to how we think county staff should be doing things differently, or are they looking for our input in some other way? And I think our agenda as an organization should be crafted around the manager's vision for what he's looking for from us. So anyway, that looking at this just makes me realize that we're sort of out here. We can beg folks to come present information, but I'm not sure there's an ear hearing our thoughts on that information once it's presented. So anyway, I don't know if that's something we can get back to the county manager as in the context of crafting our year, what specifically is he looking for from us?
Yeah. Hey, Cynthia.
Thank you. Mike, that was really well articulated, and I think that Ellen and Dana and I were struggling with some of the same questions. But I do think it's helpful to have this framework. So I'm really pleased to see it in draft. And just a couple of points. One, I think it was a great idea that we should add schools, but specifically also I would like to add vehicle safety of school vehicles, because if y'all will recall, at least for those of us who were at the meeting with the representatives from Arlington County, I guess from DES, who are working on the vehicle safety measures, they gave us an amazing presentation of all the things they're doing to try and better equip the vehicles themselves, and also the training so that they would be safer on the roads. It was fabulous, and they acknowledged that the schools division was the one division that's not willing to engage on these safety upgrades. So I would love it if we could meet with the school vehicular safety representative, if we can find that person. So, and then the other thing I was going to mention is, when I think this calendar is super useful for the topic that we are going to discuss at 8:10 on BAC priorities. I'll go into it when we start talking about it, but I think there's a lot more that we will be able to add. So this is super useful. Thank you.
Hey, Dana.
Yeah, the one thing is, what help do you need from us to get the county manager to tell these people that this is important? Because until their boss tells them it's important, they will make a decision whether it's convenient or not. And that's, and we don't see these things as optional. So, how do you want us to help you get some priority on these things?
Yeah, well, it does seem like that's a really good question. It does seem like specificity is a great thing, just based off like the past couple of years. Like whenever we just invite someone to come speak to the BAC without like a specific topic or question in mind, they're kind of just like shrug their shoulders, like, how do I prepare for this? What do I need to do? Do I need to be there? So like having some kind of idea of what specifically the issue is. So I really love the idea that Cynthia mentioned about establishing priorities for the year, because that we could take that to the county manager's office and to DES leadership, to highlight things that the BAC is prioritizing for the year, and then outlining specifics about what do you want to hear about it. Uh, just because it helps with us to find exactly who to invite, and also to give them with this calendar in place, gives them some time to prepare for whatever the topic is at hand. So, for example, if you want to talk to, uh, for example, in September, like with the shared micromobility operators, that's plenty of time to like for us as a committee to establish some parameters, come up with some questions to ask them in advance, and then they could come back to us. But when it comes to like, directing departments to come speak to us, yeah, I'm not sure how to go about doing that. Yeah, the best thing I could do, the best advice I could offer is to like have things like planned out in advance, and then we can invite who needs to come into the room, and then go from there.
Yeah, but I think in some cases, we can give them, the topics 2 months in advance. But if the county manager doesn't tell them this is important and we expect you to do it, right now, 2 months in advance, they'll blow us off, or they'll view it as optional. That's the problem. And then maybe the key is we report back and say, Elwyn coordinated with the police department, and they refused to participate, and we send that to the county manager. But the thing is, the county manager has to say this is a priority, or the staff offices won't do it. So to that, how do you want us to help you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I coach you on this. I'd say just like, I mean, in the form of like writing letters, advocating, fighting for specific topics to discuss. Um, yeah, I mean, there's only so much I could do. Um,
Yeah, Dana, I think you're dreaming. There really isn't anything he can do to make the county manager change his mind about how valuable the BAC's advice is. You just have to work with what you got. And I actually raised my hand to say thank you to Elwyn because I'm stunned that the BAC has never done this before. It's really amazing to me that nobody ever realized how useful it would be. And whether it's going to solve a lot of problems or not, that's another story. I mean, it won't. But certainly having this is a valuable work tool and something we should have been doing all along. So thank you, Ellen.
yeah, thanks, Randy. You'd think we would have done this by now. It seems pretty simple. Like, as I was preparing this a few weeks ago. So hopefully this is the start of something big that we could transform and make this better for the county and the BAC. Eric?
Yeah, I guess another thing to offer, at least, and I'm not sure how much longer I'll be the chair of the pedestrian advisory committee, but I would think that I know some of the feedback that we've gotten is respecting staff time. So potentially by coordinating a briefing with the pedestrian advisory committee, maybe even pulling in another committee, we might be able to at least respect staff time and work to potentially get a briefing that way. So thanks.
Yeah, that makes me think also we should do at least a once a year briefing but with the BAC, the PAC and the TAC, Transit Advisory Committee. Pam and I had a long conversation a few weeks ago with one of their representatives, and they would be very interested in doing a combined meeting and talking about shared interests. So maybe we could stick that on somewhere and make that happen. Thank you. Steve.
Yeah, I want to echo what Randy said, that this is really great. And an idea that might help with it is addition, because of all the topics people have brought up, is maybe on a second page, there's literally just a list of all the things that we want to make sure we cover, like during the year. And maybe if we say, 2 times a year, whatever it is, so that it sort of advises the calendar as we move along, and we treat it a little bit like a living document, because maybe in February we end up not covering A or B, but that checklist is still there. So we know what we have and what we still need to get to as we move through the year. And maybe it's a rolling 12 months, right? So we can always see ahead, next January, we can see that, next February, and so on and so forth. that might be just an idea of a way to make it even more useful.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. One thing I did notice, just from like browsing other equivalent BACs from other jurisdictions, I could do a better job of providing minutes. When I post things on the website, I just post, the YouTube link and just the agenda. But it's kind of hard to tell like what we discussed during the meetings unless you watch the recordings or read the transcripts. So I'm gonna try to do a better job of recording actual minutes, just so we could like peruse from previous months to help us inform for future months and future years. Yeah, thanks, Steve.
And
Hey, Dana.
also, I do have, and I try to circulate on the listserv my notes from every meeting. So if there are questions, my notes are public. I mean, I share them on the list, so they could be posted on the website or whatever. But we do have, a write-up from every meeting that I have shared.
Question, Elwin. Can you ask the county manager which month he'd like to come see us? That was a pretty useful meeting in the spring. And maybe we should, get him in the queue for once a year.
Yeah, for sure. I think last year we did it in January, like a year ago. But yeah, I can see what his schedule looks like for the next few months.
We did it in March.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Cynthia. Hey, Mike.
Yeah, hey, I just wanted to kind of jump on what the others were saying. I'm just sort of thinking out loud here as we look at this as a tool, and then in the later agenda item when we talk about our goals. I can see county staff really being uncomfortable with, hey, just come to the bike committee and talk about bike issues, and just anticipating it's just an opportunity for us to fuss at them about vague bike things maybe they're not even ready to talk about. So I'm sensitive to that. And I'm wondering if in setting our goals, should we start thinking about setting an annual set of issues, maybe around a theme that we just really focus on that year? And so one that came to my mind, and we can talk about it later, but is there's a lot of bike facilities in and going in, and what's keeping them from being useful, right? So there's maintenance of those, there's clearing of ice and snow, which is spotty at best. There's construction MOT that just take it out. There's enforcement of people blocking it. All the things we know about, right? But could we make a year where we kind of focus on that so staff knows, the bike committee is really trying to determine how to solve these problems, and so we want the various staff to come, whether it's the police or the maintenance or whomever, around that's we're really trying to solve something, not just generally fuss at staff. Anyway, just an idea I was thinking about as I heard everybody else talking.
Yeah, I don't want to steal Cynthia's thunder because I think she's gonna allude to that with the priority segment in a bit. But yeah, I really love the idea of like not just having this calendar of looking ahead for the year, but also outlining goals, issues, priorities that we want to review as a group. It's really like hone in on, and I guess it's a better idea of uh, you know rather than trying to play whack-a-mole with everything going on in the county, trying to focus on like a select group of things to divide and conquer. I have noticed with other committees around the country that, they do have like subcommittees, or maybe have like research projects that individuals or groups of folks work on together. So that could be something that we could look into as well.
Yeah, no, that all sounds really good, and hold that thought, everybody, and Mike, because in a few minutes we want to discuss that more. and we were thinking, just in brainstorming, we were talking about quarterly themes, but it could be longer than that. So, I mean, we were thinking like 3 months per theme, but yeah, let's talk in a few minutes. Why don't we, unless anyone has something urgent to say, why don't we move along and talk. Dana is going to talk about the letter that he has drafted on Long Bridge Drive multimodal connection. Dana, are you in a position to talk about Long Bridge now? Dana, you there?
You probably went out to get a drink.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm
Yes.
here.
Okay, good.
No, we were having my computer was having a moment. Okay, if Ellen, if you could bring up the well, hell, I don't think we need the thing. You know, I sent it out to everybody. You can take a look at it. The last month, Arlington published the final concept design for the multimodal, for the Long Bridge Drive multimodal connection, multimodal improvements. It was largely the same as the first and second public engagement, except that it appears that the abandonment of one of the on-ramps to 395 North has been put on hold, likely because of the delays associated with VDOT. You know, VDOT owns, has powers over interchanges, and it'll take them a while to figure it out. There had been a proposal to take the on-ramp that was immediately opposite the aquatic center entrance and abandon it and pull it up. And forcing everybody who's on Long Bridge who wants to get on 395 North to go through the traffic circle and come in via the traffic circle. I sent the letter out because I think the BAC needs to push back. It needs to push back because the 2023 and the 2024 summaries of this said multiple comments noted the need for safe crossings at various locations. The comment was particularly prevalent in areas around the entrance to the Long Bridge Park and the aquatic center. That was a 2023 summary. 2024 summary said additional safety features. The current final concept design says we think we're going to do some additional safety features, but we'll figure them out later. And figuring out later doesn't really give them an opportunity to socialize them through their engagement process. Basically, what happens for those of you that haven't ridden it in the morning, is because the Long Bridge the Boundary Channel interchange isn't working particularly well, a result of backups off the 14th Street Bridge. A significant number of motorists who are trying to get to the Pentagon North parking lot get off at Hayes, come down Army Navy, turn on 12th Street, turn on Long Bridge, take Long Bridge all the way up to the Aquatic Center, then turn on Boundary Channel and go to the parking lot. It's pretty busy there in the morning. The proposal, the concept design, has the traffic going to the new bike ped bridge over the Potomac going on the interstate side of Long Bridge, then somehow, using safety features to be named later, crossing Long Bridge at an unsignalized mid-block crossing to get onto the ramp to the Potomac River Bridge. If we're trying to create another Lynn and Langston in Roslyn, I think we probably have a good strategy to do so. It seems to me that if they want to stay on, come up with a way to get people safely across Long Bridge. My fear is, and I highlighted it in the letter, is that this will show up as an unsuccessful bike project because cyclists will use the Esplanade. You have a safe, accessible route to get to the new Potomac River Bridge. Come off Crystal Drive and just go straight on up. Nobody wants that, but that's what we're going to get. So it seems to me that they have a couple of options. Move the trail to the other side of the, and they didn't want to do that. But one of the reasons they articulated for not wanting to do that was intersections between the parking lots and the trail crossings. And the other reason they articulated was it would require a site plan amendment because the Long Bridge Park included a requirement for parking on the street. The commercial property owners in Arlington do site plan amendments all the time. So I don't believe they're difficult to do. They just have to do them. It seemed that, so I'm not a fan of this. And so what we're proposing is we'll send the county manager this letter saying, there's still a lot of work to do. And the other aspect of this being a lot of work to do is this new capital project, the Long Bridge multimodal improvements, stops at about the aquatic center, and we're then relying on the existing sidewalk and trail around the aquatic center to connect to the new Potomac River Bridge. With two major capital projects, they should actually link up in a seamless manner and not just rely on some existing infrastructure. Given that there's a bike share station along that trail that will cause people to block the trail because they'll be pulling their bikes out, and there's also kind of some park horse exercise equipment right along the trail. So so there are currently obstructions in or near the trail that will affect a major commuter thoroughfare for pedestrians and cyclists across the Potomac. With that, basically the letter, if there's any big issues with the letter, let us know. We're not looking for, for happy to glad kind of changes. Cynthia.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the letter. I'm trying to remember what we ultimately included on this question of mid-block crossings and another option being like automatic detection of bikes and flashing lights and speed humps and all the ways you slow down and stop traffic to make a safer mid-block crossing. But anyways, that would be sort of another alternative to flipping to the other side of the road, or I mean, we need something.
An alternative would be put a bridge like they did on the WNOD over Langston in East Falls Church. It would certainly double the cost of this project, but you could certainly have the bridge launch by the somewhere on the side that they want to put the trail, and have it land on the approach to the new river bridge. Randy.
I've only been down there really for fireworks, so I'm not really an expert on riding on the Esplanade at various times. Did anybody look at how that could be redone or expanded or, some way marked off a section for bicycles or something like that? Just a curious question.
No, the documents that have been published on this have basically said that the Esplanade is not for through cyclists. They've just kind of dismissed it as we don't want through cyclists on that, and Parks and Rec have articulated that several times publicly.
Well, I'm going to ride on the Esplanade. I'm not
I'm
going
going
to
to walk my
cross.
bike.
I'm not going to walk your bike. There you go. I'm not going to take this trail that they're going to build on the wrong side of the street and then try to cross the street in a terrible place with whatever they've got, some kind of crazy beacons or something that people may or may not stop for. I mean, you're just
they don't even have crazy beacons yet.
Yeah, you're just adding another dangerous intersection that you don't have to put up with. I'm going to ride on the Esplanade.
Yeah, it kind of seems that the only people that this would benefit would be people coming from 12th and then going up Long Bridge. But even then, just continuing on 12th until the entrance of the Esplanade seems to make plenty of sense.
So hearing no extraordinary objections, do we want to say, send the letter?
Should we, I was just going to add, seconding what Randy just said, over the last couple of years, whenever we've had public engagement opportunities, I have always written in, I'm going to ride on the Esplanade, and where it's safe. And second, I work in air pollution. Why should I ride on heavily trafficked roads when I don't have to? And there's a lot of space up, next to the walking path. You could make a little lane for bicycles. It wouldn't be that hard. Or in the back of the playing fields. There are other things they could have done, but they've ignored all those comments. But we could add a line in the letter, like just, offering that up again. They will probably ignore it as they have been doing, but I mean, I think it's so logical.
Well, we're actually not telling them what they should do. We're just telling them that they need to do, they need to look at it some more. Before we declare the end of the concept phase and go into the design without any actual design requirements, because all of the safety features at the crossing are draft picks to be named later. My term. If they said we're going to put in a stoplight here, or we're going to put in, rapid flash beacons and elevated tables, at least they're taking a position. Basically all they've said is we're going to figure this out later. And given the fact that the public engagement period is now over because we've already done the concept, it doesn't look like we're going to get a vote or an opportunity to provide input. So we can put something in, we did put something in there that said it may cause this project to appear to the public to be a failure because people aren't going to use it because they'll be using the Esplanade or someplace that they feel safer. And that's not going to play well, in a time of budget shortages. If I think the estimate was 7 million for this, if you drop 7 million and nobody uses it because everybody's using the Esplanade or someplace else, it's not going to play well to the people that are paying attention.
I think Randy has a hand up.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. I forgot to take it down.
Oh, no worries. So yeah, no, to your point, Dana, it's like the third parallel bridge over by Shirlington. Like, did we really need a third pedestrian bridge? So some of us are watching how the county spends their money, our money. I interrupted you, Dana, earlier when you were getting to your point about taking a vote, perhaps?
Yeah, I will move to, to send this letter with the change that Cynthia wanted, to add a little bit more emphasis on the Esplanade. I think you need to take over now, Cynthia.
I think that's a great idea, but I'm really bad at these votes. So who's expert at it?
Does somebody second?
Oh, I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Raise your hand. Okay. Okay, opposed? Everybody is in favor, lower their. Steve-O opposed or?
No, I was in favor. I was just
Okay.
slow on the hand raise. So.
Okay, so it's largely unanimous. Okay, we can make that happen. Thank you. And
Mike,
so
is
y'all
that
know,
a raised hand, or is that, I mean, did you want to say something?
No, that's a
It's a vote.
keep trying to get it down and it won't go down. I was a yay.
Yay.
Now
All right.
I'm doing this on my phone and my fingers are too fat. So give me a second.
Actually, I did have a question.
Yes, sir.
Hi, all. I'm having to do double duty tonight. Alexandria BPAC also was meeting tonight. And I was hoping to catch, and I assume that you just voted on, was Dana's Longbridge letter. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Perfect. All right. I wanted just to flag that I did read your draft, Dana. Appreciate it. I would have no problem voting for the letter if I was a member. But I did just want to flag that I have been in touch with the VPRA staff, the Longbridge folks, mostly about some upcoming detours, and they wanted just to sort of talk about getting the word out about the detours. And in the course of that long conversation, I did bring up Longbridge, and then I have since sort of reiterated that, hey, VPRA folks, like, you might be in a really good position to help encourage maybe some faster and or better work on Longbridge retrofits, especially if you want people to use that potentially as a detour route while you're constructing the bridge, not after the bridge is done necessarily. So I did plant that seed, and so I just wanted to flag that for all of y'all. And I will be I anticipate that I'll hear something back. They needed to sort of circle back with their like planning folks to see to what extent they've had any conversations with the county about Longbridge Drive. I don't know if they have, but if they have, great. I would love to know what they talked about. If they haven't, I would love to get them potentially on the side of advocates here to really push for something really robust and good and faster, right? Like, let's get some of that stuff put in as quickly as we can, rather than 2030. So in any case, just letting you know, there's a sort of a second front on this fight for a better Longbridge Drive.
Well, I think the challenge we face is the fact that this project terminates at roughly the entrance to the aquatic center. And
it seems like the alignment is that, oh, great, the bridge will open in 2030 and Longbridge Drive will open in 2030. And really what we need folks to understand is like, no, the bridge might be opening in 2030, but there's going to be a detour until 2030. And one of the like key detours, depending on how much the Mount Vernon Trail gets mucked up, is going to be to come, through Crystal City, up Crystal Drive, onto Longbridge Drive, and then over the 14th Street Bridge there. And so I think, in their mind, they might be thinking, oh, it'll be timely for these two things to open at the same time. And really, I think it's going to be important to flag that, like, no, there's going to be a really acute need for this starting as soon as they start, really construction in earnest on Longbridge.
Yeah, no, but more specifically, there is a 500-yard gap between the two projects that they need to hold hands on and modify either project, I don't care which, to the point that there's a 0-yard gap between those, independent of the detour. Right now, this project stops at the entrance to the aquatic center. Longbridge is going to land somewhere behind the aquatic center. And the existing trail isn't bad, but it's not going to be it's not wide enough to be a major commuter route. In addition to the issue of the detours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But in any case, just wanted to, I didn't want to restart the debate or anything. I just wanted to point that out, make sure that I had a chance to share that with the larger advocacy community here in Arlington. And we'll keep you posted if I hear anything back. But
super,
thanks.
Thank you. No, we're on schedule.
We're doing awesome. Did anyone else have thoughts? That was really useful, Kevin. That was good information. All right. I think we're great. We'll have a letter. So Dana's going to finalize the letter and send it out. We'll send it out from the BAC. Okay, why don't we move right along then? And this next topic is BAC priorities, and it is sort of an extension of our conversation from 2 topics ago. So, as most all of us know, we've been sort of trying to figure out our niche. Given, I mean, we've met with County Manager Schwartz, with Chief Operating Officer Wei Wang, with we've been in communications with various people in DES, and it is quite clear that the county does not want our input on specific projects and like specific intersections, even though those were the reason that many of us joined the BAC in the first place, because we're all very concerned about road safety. So then the question came up, should we be like advising the county on policy? But it's not clear that that would really be welcome either, even though it was suggested by Mr. Schwartz. We would be stepping on a lot of toes, for one thing, to be telling them what we think the policy should be. But we have tremendous expertise. I mean, engineering and like I mean, we have people like Dana and Collier and people who know their road building really well. And we also, we all have tremendous experience because we're on the roads every day. We know all the potholes, the intersections, the signal timing, everything else. So what to do? So Dana and I met over coffee a couple days ago and started brainstorming, and we're thinking that at least for the near future, we could sort of develop our own path forward, and start creating things like dirty dozen lists or lists of quick fixes for parks, for DES. What do we recommend, or best and worst in various categories, and just share like some of the things that we are seeing on the roads and on the trails, and what stands up to us, which stretch of road raises our blood pressure when we approach certain intersections. I know I have my top lists, and just do that for a while, and we can continue to put our reflections into letters to the county manager. We could also share more widely. I know press sometimes listens to our meetings as well. It's even possible that some in the county may conclude they actually preferred to have us in a more behind the scenes diplomatic role, giving them our input directly. But I think it would be kind of fun and interesting to try some of these other approaches. And one thing like Dana was suggesting, and I think it's a great idea, is if we pick topics, and say we're going to focus on this for the next like 3 months, or in the meeting in say April, and we would announce it like tonight, and then that would sort of be our homework as we're riding around Arlington, to keep that theme in mind. And a lot of themes came up, just earlier in this conversation, things like enforcement, bike and trail conditions, some of the others on our list from our initial brainstorm, intersections, safety assessments, report a problem, signal timing, the use of outside contractors, the possibility of bringing VDOT in to talk with us about the Custis Trail moguls and what happened. How do we prevent that in the future? Paving plans, maintenance responsibilities, parking enforcement, MOTs, bike lane delineation. There are so many themes. And if we wanted to sort of take one of these approaches, like best and worst, or, top 10, or whatever we want to call it, I think it could be quite interesting to start sort of making lists. I know that Randy has been leading in this effort for. He sent me a copy of some recommendations that he had put together for the county like 6 or 7 years ago, with photos. Here are the places on the trail that need fixing. And as he's pointed out, some have been fixed, and some haven't been touched. So, anyways, I'm going to open this up. I'm talking way too much, but it would be great to hear, other people's thoughts on what might work, and how to sort of make practical use of our expertise in a way that actually might influence some in the county to take action. So, thoughts, ideas, reactions? If there are particular themes you think it would be fun to start with, if we should start on something on the trails, something on the roads, intersections. What do people think? Dana.
Yeah, I would say we could probably do one in the next, month or two on quick fixes. Simple things, Randy highlighted the the WNOD at Wilson Bridge. The recent repaving finally fixed that, that gap in the pavement, right where the trail merges. I've been banging on parks for a couple of years to do one on the 4 mile run where it at the switchback, right before you get to Route 1. There's a spot that needs about 4 square feet of asphalt. Maybe, just, a photograph of reason why, a photograph of location and a reason why. And we can just put it together and put a ribbon on it and turn it in.
Are you thinking just trails, or are we thinking roads and trails?
I would say we would probably let's not be restrictive, and we'll just tease it out as to whether we think this is a DES, water, sewers, and streets issue or a Parks and Rec issue.
So I think that sounds reasonable. What do others think, and what are your most desired issues? What would you like to dive into?
It's following up on Dana. I think that's a great idea. I'm just wondering if we shouldn't try to make it a little bit more of an engagement rather than just sending this off into the ether once we have it done. And maybe we schedule to have this, hot issues report issued by, I don't know, pick a date, the 1st of June or whatever that meeting is, and then go ahead and have DES staff scheduled for July or August, or well, I guess we're taking those off, but whatever, to be ready to come back and then address them. Yeah, oh yeah, these are great. We're going to put them on the CIP. Here's why we can't fix this, whatever. But actually request a specific response to the list at a meeting that's scheduled, so everyone knows it's happening. Something like that, just to give it a little more meaning. Otherwise, I'm afraid it'll just be one more thing we issue out, like Randy's list, and we never really know if anyone's reading it or paying attention.
Yeah, no, I love that. I don't know if we can. I mean, we've been told very, very clearly over and over that DES will not meet with us, and doesn't want to talk about specific projects with us and so on. I don't know where the boundaries are for that. I would love to engage with them on many issues. We could try.
Yeah, let's present it to DES and say, we would like to, give you the opportunity to discuss this, in next month's meeting, next month BAC. And, at some point, if they define this as they want no engagement, then they're going to have to live with that decision. And given the Arlington way, that decision shouldn't play well.
So are there other ideas in terms of priority issues? I mean, we could also do something like examples of where we think money was really well spent, and then other places, where we think money was poorly spent. Something like that. That might be fun too. David.
Yes. One thought, Cynthia, that I had was, in traveling around on my bike through Arlington, and where there is a protected bike lane of sorts, often the poles are knocked down by cars that were parking, or in some places they have, concrete pillows, and which I think are really useful. Some places they don't. But flagging things like that would be really easy fixes, I think would be an enormous help, to make the protected bike lanes that we already have as protected as they can be.
Dana, you jump in.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that the challenge, what I've noticed in the past is somehow we extract a commitment from a developer. We Arlington extracts a commitment from a developer to do a protected bike lane with no design expectations. So we get ones that have the flex post spaced too widely, the flex post spaced too closely, a concrete pillow, a rubber tire stop, something else. And as a result, the county then inherits the project, things that are just unmaintainable because we have one of everything somewhere in the county. Where if the county were to articulate a design standard, both the spacing and the products, life might be simpler for the poor guys that have to do the maintenance.
Yeah, that's a fair point, but I guess what I'm saying is, we have we've got what we've got, and it may not be perfect, but it's probably better than nothing. And so let's just, where things are knocked down, or where things are not working, let's fix them. I mean, I could come up with a long list just, of flex posts, or concrete pillars, little pillars that are knocked out of place, and, just fixing what's there, I think would be an easy thing to do. Maybe not, maybe I'm wrong, but would certainly help. So that was just my thought looking at Cynthia's terrific list.
So is it better to focus like thematically, like just on bike lane delineation, flex post pillows, etc., or would that be like a part of Dana's suggestion, to focus more broadly on quick fixes?
I think you could do both, actually. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think it would be ideal, what Dana said would be ideal if there was kind of a standard for protected bike lanes where they're, part of a design. But that doesn't, I don't know if there is one, I don't know what it is, but any protected bike lane is better than none, even if they're haphazard.
I'm just thinking, sort of circling back to what the county manager says he wants from us, which is less, individual projects, individual things, and more, policy level things. So I have a couple of concerns. One is the concern, the response to all of this will be, well, yeah, just report a problem. We have a system for that. Go ahead and use it. Which will be, how frustrating that'll be. But I'm wondering if he would be more, and I'm kind of thinking we should maybe even put a list of possibilities back to the county manager and say, which would you prefer us to do? Something like this, where we're identifying specific issues that need to be fixed or could be improved, or go around and say, okay, we as the bike community, after some looking at it and some study of it, believe that our biggest problem is you're not maintaining the bike lanes, or your people are blocking the bike lanes, or whatever the more systematic issue is, and then ask if staff could address those, not on a spot by spot basis, but we are noticing that a lot of these things are not getting maintained. What's the problem? And is it poor design? Is it lack of maintenance money, lack of attention, and get at it from a systematic perspective instead, since that's what he says he wants. But just circling back, I almost want to put it back to him and say, we're trying to figure out what you want us to do. Here are, 3 possible ways we could proceed. Which one would you prefer? And put him on the spot to tell us what he wants.
It's a good idea.
Well, I would say there, Mike, what we might want to do is list 3 or 4 things. And I volunteer to, I'll volunteer to write the, draft the letter. And rather than say, which one would you prefer, which one would you prefer for us to do first? We
Right.
we have identified 5 things that, that we think would add value to the county, just bicycling in the county. Of these 5 things, which one would you like us to do first? Don't give him a veto.
Yeah,
in that respect.
That would be reasonable. Otherwise I feel like we're just sort of, shouting into the void sometimes when we do these things. If it's not something he's expecting or his staff is expecting to receive or sees any value in.
I think those are great points.
And report a problem for some things works superbly. Flex posts get replaced with great frequency under report a problem. There's no report a problem category that says, can you decrease the spacing of the flex posts? But when one goes down, they're on it fairly quickly. So maybe that's the key, is we need to stroke them for that.
Well, I think that's the case too, but I also think, doing a more comprehensive look at it and then saying, hey, we're seeing all these different designs across the county. We recommend the county develop a standardized design to hand to developers. It's a really specific thing for them to come back and react to. That's a systemic and a policy issue. It's not about fixing the old ones, those are done, but developers going forward.
No, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it sounds very reasonable. What about like some of the other things on our list, like recommending that the county, like they already have a sidewalk assessment. but they don't have something for bike lanes and trails as far as I know. So like one thought had been, what if they expand their sidewalk assessment to include bike lanes and trails? Or like what if we did like a top 10 list of intersections that make bicycle riders like most uncomfortable? Things like that don't I mean, you can't put a whole intersection into a report problem. Um, so I'm just wondering, if yeah, if there's something that we could do that would be useful. David, do you have your hand? Is that a fresh hand? Did you want to jump in? Or is that the old hand? All right. So yeah, so anyways, what do people think about like some of those suggestions that don't fit in, that are more along what Mike was saying of like looking at, they're not policy issues per se, but sort of what isn't working on a bigger scale. Aaron.
Yeah, I like what Mike was saying about the systematic approach, and I think we have a chance to show what's not working very clearly as our attempt to be systematic. And say, like I'm just thinking about the courthouse, the Admiral, that new building. On every side of it is a different bike lane treatment, and they all have problems. And it's not clear who decided what where, but that's a really, just nitpicking at the county or at the contractor for what has already been finished is not really why we're here, but saying, look, we don't want this to be a haphazard thing in the future. Here's an example of what was not done well. Let's work to get this thing systemized. I think that's a much better approach. And to say that, in spite of what Schwartz doesn't want, to say it's important for us to be there, to be present, to be a part of this. I think that's how you can motivate it, as opposed to just complaining. Because I like to complain, a lot of problems. But
Dina.
Well, there's, for example, for those of you that have ridden the newly complete or the near completion portion of Columbia Pike, when you come, west of Washington Boulevard, that damn telephone, or that, the damn telephone pole that has been in the sidewalk for 143 years there is gone. Great job. But if you to the point where we started, when you ride on Glebe and you cross Glebe and Mount Vernon, the recently completed signal project there put a signal pole basically in the middle of the sidewalk at a bus stop. They could have moved it back 5 feet into the grass, but for some reason, it was dropped in the middle of the sidewalk. That might be a good place where we highlight the things that that where it's done well, and then highlight the things where it isn't, and suggest that maybe as a design standard, it needs to be, the county needs to move them back all, whenever they're doing a project. Not go out and police up the ones that are already there, but whenever they're doing a project, we keep signal poles out of the sidewalk. And unless somebody powerful has said that's, not possible. And that could be just, the ones that we see that we just document with a photograph and a location. and we can put it together at some point in the future.
So I like all these ideas. I'm wondering how to proceed. What would be most effective? Given they don't really want our advice, but we have a lot to share, and I think these sort of systemic questions are really important, and we have a lot of examples to back up what we see and suggest.
Well,
So
why don't we do one and reference the county manager's meeting with us where he asked us to do this stuff, and we say, and here it, and here's one of the series of them, and if he thinks he needs to clarify, then he will, but it becomes part of the record at that point.
So what theme, if we were to do such an undertaking, what theme would work best? I mean, I understand, like Mike's point was really good that some of these they're going to say, that's a report a problem issue. That's not what we want. We want something that's more of a systemic issue with MOTS or with signals or with lane delineation, or so what would be best to showcase the kind of issues that we're talking about?
I'd suggest lane delineation for, to start with. It's one that bothers, just about everybody on this call.
Can you define that a little bit better, Dan? What you mean by lane delineation? What you guys are talking about?
Say again.
He's
Can you,
asking, can we define better what we mean by lane delineation?
Yeah, I would say probably the panoply of approaches that are evident in the county right now on separating bike lanes and traffic lanes, and they're all in
oh, okay,
roadways.
yeah.
So
Okay,
specifically
I get you.
excluding the trails, the DE or the Parks and Rec trails, and but just specifically the separations of bike lanes and traffic lanes.
And towards that, which ones we think work best and which ones we think are problematic. So towards a county design standard. Hey, we want you to kind of emulate this road when we think it works really well. And maybe not so much these others. So it's not just a negative thing, but it's a positive and negative. Towards a more consistent design standard.
Yeah, and then a follow on at some point in the future could be, I'm gonna say, crap in the crap in the lanes. I think we've probably all come close to dying when we've hit one of those Washington Gas domed covers that that seem to habituate in bike lanes.
So if we're going to focus on lane delineation and separating traffic lanes from bike lanes, are we including also parking lanes of parked cars instead of flex posts and whatnot? I mean, I often don't use the lanes, the bike lanes. I just, stay in the car lanes because I trust that they will have less debris. And I actually sometimes feel safer and less dooring and all that. But that becomes a whole nother question, or set of issues if we're including parked car delineation, like delineation using cars.
Except Cynthia, I believe that I don't recall ever seeing any where we use the cars alone. We always have the cars, and the cars are parking up against flex posts or something like that. There's flex posts defining, separating you and the parked car as opposed to you and the moving car.
Okay.
The follow-on one could certainly be, and how are you maintaining these things? The whatever the bike lanes are, but that's a separate issue. That's an operations and maintenance issue as opposed to a design issue.
Right. Well, and the county's also experimenting with different things. With the bus islands that they've started putting in, and then ways of accessing the bus islands with, sometimes it's concrete, sometimes it's more of a metal or some other kind of a ramp across the bike lane to get you up and over the access to the bus island. I think they would probably like our input on the experiments they've been doing around the county, on bike lane design, what seems to be working, what seems to be problematic.
So you used the phrase bike lane design. Is that too broad, or could we do sort of our first effort focused on bike lane design, which may include more than the delineation along the edges?
I think we could have an entire submission just on intersections. And
Yes.
when bike lanes disappear at intersections and things. So I think we have to not include that. Signalization, we don't include that. Trails, we don't include that. So we're just looking at design of on-street bike lanes.
I would say make it a little bit more. Let's look at the physical delineation. We could begin with the paragraph would begin by saying, throughout Arlington County there are myriad different strategies used to separate bicyclists from motor vehicles, parked or moving, and we're going to look at those at specifically that those things, and if nothing else, it will get the discussion going, and then at the end of it, the end of this several page document, it could be said, and we think that we could probably also look at a couple of other related issues, but keep it fairly narrow so they're easy to prepare and easy to digest. We're not trying to replace NACTO.
Yeah, I would agree to that, at least to start off with. And then I think I'm also really curious whether DES staff would be willing to come discuss that with us. Not a project by project, but hey, we've said we like this rather than that, or we find this design problematic versus the other. it would be great to have them come and say, yeah, we get the problem with this design, but we have to use it in certain circumstances because of this, and kind of inform us or their position on it, have a dialogue. I don't know if they'd be willing to do that or not, but I think that would be, might be better received than the project by project discussion.
Well, that's consistent with what the county manager said. He wants us to input to standards. And because the standards are the county standards, their standards experts would need to show up.
All right, so what should be our marching orders for ourselves? It's January now. Should we think about this as sort of a March discussion, but check in next month just briefly on like, what if we spend the next month and really 2 months, but observing bike lane delineation, observing sort of what's protecting us or separating us from the car lanes and pedestrian lanes if there are any. We could sort of observe for the next month, touch base, see if there's a there, what we're finding, and then schedule it to include it potentially in as a discussion topic in our March meeting. Does that work?
If I might, how about for the next month, as you guys are all out riding around and everybody with, using your cell phones, when you see something that either works or doesn't work, take a picture of it, post it to the BAC, listserv with a subject like bike lane delineation, and include the photo, where you took it, and what you liked or didn't like about it. And that way we could, it would be fairly easy to pull together a work product.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
All right.
And if one of us posts something and you want to elaborate on it, knock yourself out. I might be able to come up with with what I think is a working example in the next half hour or so.
That sounds great. So include a photo, what you like or don't like, and maybe where, like, specify where you're at.
Where is essential?
Yeah. Okay.
You want this just through email?
No, I would say do it to the BAC listserv.
Where's that? How do I get to that?
Are you on the list? I hope you are.
The listserv that comes around via email.
The Google groups?
The Google groups, yeah.
Yeah.
But if I send something to that, isn't that just emailing everybody?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's fine. It just could get cluttery if we're doing a lot of work. Is it possible to just generate a shared document for at least members of the BAC to post on a Google Doc or something?
Yeah, I agree. That would probably be a smoother way of doing this.
That sounds logical. Who's good at setting these things up? Anybody?
I'm happy to do it. If it's okay to I'll just send it out, the Google Doc that's editable by anybody who has the link. That'll be out on the listserv.
Ooh, thank you. That would be fabulous.
What's happening is a football game.
Pretty early on.
Sounds like we're missing something.
Yeah. Now we're 5 minutes behind schedule.
All right, we'll catch up. So that sounds fabulous. Thank you so much, Aaron, for putting together a Google Doc. And we can send out reminders and keep our eyes open for the next few weeks. And the timeline for this, we will touch base informally next month and then maybe have it on the agenda for the month after.
Sounds
All
like
right.
a plan.
We'll do that. Okay, next up, we have BAC business and announcements. Elwin, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure thing. So y'all may have heard that Noreen is no longer with the BAC. I believe she sent out a message on the Google Groups page about a month ago or so. She's working on a new volunteer task with the Forestry and Natural Resources Commission, so fortunately she won't have time to come to meetings, but she did mention that if y'all have anything that you'd like to hear from the FNRC, please feel free to reach out to her. In general, we're always looking for more members to join the BAC. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge to Collier on the call. But yeah, if there's anyone that you know who wants to join, everyone's welcome to join. Let's see. For this, we were talking about this for a few months ago, but this idea of creating liaisons for transportation projects, y'all were just alluding to this during this last topic. But the idea is, having, projects shared with the BAC in advance before it gets sent out to the full public engagement. So in the next few months, we'll be getting a list of projects to keep on your radars. And our communications folks are setting up a new quarterly look ahead for engagements that are coming up. So you guys can get a sneak peek of what's coming up soon for projects. And if you want to emulate the way we've been doing the MTP refresh of having like a committee member follow a specific project of following a new initiative that's going on, having them serve as like a go-between to share with the committee and of new things that are coming up and new engagements. But yeah, I'll have more information in the next few months on that. They're still working on it. And then for the Bike Arlington quarterly updates, let's see. Mary and Lauren will be attending the trail cleanup next week, next Monday for MLK Day of Service. They're organizing a cleanup on the WNOD. So if any folks want to join, you're more than welcome to. I believe they're meeting along Columbia Pike at the WNOD trailhead across the street from the Learner's Loop and Cabby Station from 10 to 1. So they're providing all supplies and so you don't have to worry about bringing anything with you. So if anybody wants to help out with cleanup on the trail, you're more than welcome to. There's a new documentary that's going to be screened at the GMU Virginia Square campus for documentary about the Rusted Trails movement. Peter Harnick, who's one of the founders of the Rusted Trails movement, he's going to be there. He also was a filmmaker on the film, and he'll be participating in a Q&A if anyone wants to join that. It'll be on January 26th. Let's see. There's going to be a winter bike to work day at Gravelly Point on Friday, February 13th from 4 to 6. So Bike Arlington staff will be there, and they'll be tabling along with other folks such as WABA. to basically organize folks to Bike to Work Day during February, and then for the actual Bike to Work Day 2026, which is scheduled for Friday, May 15th this year. Bike Arlington has started submitting applications for new pit stops. So, Boston and Roslyn will still be pit stops, but then they will now have a new one or bring one back that has been on pause due to the construction of Columbia Pike at the Penrose Square. So yeah, those three new pit stops will be organized, and the new Bike to Work Day will also be launching at the end of the month. It looks like registration will be open in March.
Can you repeat again which day that the Bike to Work Day is?
Yeah, sure. It's going to be on May 15th.
Hey, Elwin.
Yep.
If your outreach folks do a laundry list of projects which are going to be coming up soon, and there's no announced public engagement, how will the liaison learn of those, or learn any more than what's on the one pager that you're distributing? Will there be any engagement between the DES project staff and these liaisons?
Yeah, the idea is to have someone report on the progress, and they could directly work with each of the PMs. I guess they're trying to make it more. There's like a lot of success or perceived success about the MTP refresh project, so they really like the process of having someone attend a meeting and then reporting back to each respective committee. So I'm not sure which exactly projects they'll have outlined. But yeah, not sure that answers your question.
Well, I guess my question would be: let's take the Long Bridge project. And roll the clock back 2 years. Would the BAC liaison be invited to participate in the early brainstorming? Would they be what exactly what information would be provided to the BAC liaison? Or do you anticipate?
Yeah, and be more so just like getting ahead of like what's shared with the full community. So getting ideas of upcoming uh, you know deadlines and things to look out for. So the idea is that the BAC will have more of a tip of the iceberg first look at a project, and then what you do with that information is up to y'all in terms of maybe if you're going off the Long Bridge example, having the committee having that person report to the committee, and then the committee works together to formalize some kind of letter, some kind of feedback to see what can be changed or what they like, what they don't like.
But what information would be provided?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it varies from project to project. I'm not sure which projects they have outlined yet.
Okay, okay. If you could ask whoever's brainstorm this is, to come up with a mock-up of the next project in the list, so we have some idea what exactly you're going to provide that, for us to provide input on.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, I think it could work well, especially if the BAC identified a lead person on a project, but then also there was some county staff with whom that person could communicate through the project, to ask questions or that kind of thing, so that we're getting more up-to-date information, not just what gets posted to the web. And since it would just be one person identified, it wouldn't be like they'd be barraged, with questions. It reminds me a little bit of the PFRC process where commissions, identify a person to follow a project. And now that's a more formal PFRC process, but still there's a person staff knows is representing the bike committee, and therefore questions aren't just like they were getting them from the public. So if they could do something like that, where there is a county liaison liaising directly with the BAC rep, I think it could be helpful.
Yeah, and you may have noticed in the calendar that we discussed earlier that we have some time like allotted for each meeting for these project liaisons to discuss. So this could be like a monthly roundup from, I'm making this up, but let's say there's 4 projects going on. You could have like 4 members kind of report back to the committee, and then that could be our way of discussing these things and finding next steps forward. Eric?
Yeah, I mean, in addition to discussing them, it also gives you an opportunity in each meeting to assign people or get a volunteer who's going to champion that project.
Yeah, for sure. But that's all I had.
Perfect. Does anyone have anything to add? Elliot, maybe, or anyone else?
Yeah, I was gonna say the Virginia legislative session starts on Wednesday, so it's a great time to write your legislative officials about some bike things like the safety stop, Idaho stop, allowing cyclists to bike when the walk signal is on, also riding 2 abreast. I just wrote Patrick Hope and Barbara Fafolba, who's my state rep and senator during this meeting, a little multitasking, but be a good thing to send them a quick note about.
Ooh, that's fantastic information. Elliot, would you be up are you on the BAC list? If you could, like what you just said, if you if you would want to send just a paragraph, a couple sentences to the BAC list, then we'd all have like the info and we could just do it. I think that's great.
I'll draft up a letter that we can all send as individuals, since I know.
Okay, if you want to do that, or even just a couple sentences, like saying this is like an opportunity and now is the time.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Big beautiful bike bill, perhaps.
Oh yeah. Thank you. All right, anyone else? 9:02, not too bad. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Hi, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.